Well, good morning, and thank you for being here. We always appreciate the partnerships with not only the other agencies, but also with the media, as we are all trying to protect our children. We are here for an important and concerning situation that we're going to touch on the academic and student side as well as the legal side. But first I want to introduce an amazing board member. This is his district, Dr. Jeff Holness.
Thank you so much, Dr. Licata. Good morning, and thank you all for joining us this morning to discuss a very concerning and important topic regarding the safety of our students. First, I want to thank Principal Dr. Ryan Reardon of Lauderhill 6 through 12 for hosting today's press conference as we discuss the crime known as sextortion. This school is a 6 through 12 school, and it is unnerving to learn that there are criminals out there targeting students just like the ones learning in these classrooms. Teenagers in middle school and high school. I want to thank the men and women of the Broward Sheriff's Office for the work you do and for bringing this matter to our attention. As a school district, we are in the business of educating students. Often you hear us talk about educating the whole child, and at times like this one, it goes beyond the classroom and health and wellness. It is about educating them on how to shield themselves from criminals who are targeting them online. Again, I thank you all for being here and for helping us raise awareness about sextortion within our community. Thank you so much.
I want to get into the idea of what we can do as a school district. First of all, we will be displaying all sorts of posters and media pieces that indicate how this works. Mostly males are targeted right now in the middle school and early high school years. It's a life-changing event. They don't understand the perspectives of it, so we will take the education side of this and the exposure. But remember, it also starts with the parents being responsible for their children's phones and their computers and their laptops. We are all in this together, and when we are protecting our children, we need the parents in as well as us, and we will continue to do this through marketing and media. We also will educate our staff members on what to look for, including teachers, as we go along, because this is a growing concern, and we're losing students. We're losing young men and women around the country in death by suicide, and we want to prevent that. It's growing, and it's a concern. So this is one of those new things we deal with in education. We want to be prepared. We want to be trained. But one of the things we have to do is protect our children so we can teach them, and it is a life-changing event. I will let Sheriff Tony, who is an amazing partner, by the way, even if he is a FSU Seminole, he is, anytime I've called him, he's there. We work together all the time, and we have the same concern, the safety of our community. So, Sheriff Tony.
First of all, thank you, Superintendent and Dr. Holness, for inviting us out here, and you are correct. We've been excellent partners up until the point he brought up FSU. This is a very serious topic, as we know, but it is a moment for us to kind of talk about the severity of what's happening out here. I think so many of us, in particular our parents in the community, are so focused and concerned about the threat of active shooters and school violence, and they typically ignore the reality of what's happening out here. And sextortion is more of a threat to our students and to our school population in general than what we're dealing with in terms of violence. We've looked at this thing from an organizational standpoint, working with our members in our Internet Crimes Against Children, who've done a phenomenal job with providing educational tools and resources about how impactful these apps are on our phones, from Snapchat to Twitter to Instagram and many others that exist out there. And what we've been able to collect and see from our investigators and the continuation of these type of sextortion events taking place is true what the superintendent said. Our young population, our middle school, our high school, our students in these environments are the victims. And what's happening is not just an immediate element of embarrassment, but it results in lack of confidence, and then worst case scenario, we're having incidents of suicide. We're losing young people because they feel as though that they can't come out and speak on these issues. The typical pattern that takes place when we're looking at sextortion is we have individuals on the other side of the internet who are pretending to be something that they're not. They solicit these photographs from kids, And if kids get into this exchange element thinking it's nothing more than innocence or playful behavior amongst two teenagers. And then we come to discover that oftentimes it's not even a teenager who's on the other side of this thing in terms of taking these photos and blackmailing. It's a combination. It's teenagers and it's adults, and it's not just those members or residents here in Broward County or in the state of Florida. We're dealing with both national and international suspects in this arena. And so we, along with the superintendent and the school board, has elected to put these posters together out strategically so that every single student, teacher, administrator, janitor, anyone who is a part of the school board organization and serving this population of almost 300,000 students will have access to real live content that's provided through our ICAC members. They are the experts, the content about the do's and don'ts to how to avoid being a victim, and the things that parents need to do to be able to have a better understanding about what's going on in the cell phones that they're allowing their kids to use. So we're happy. This is just one step of many steps that we've taken over the last several years to support the school system in terms of school safety, and we look forward to answering any of the questions that we can today. So I'll turn it over back to the superintendent, and perhaps you can...
Yes, I want to leave with this thought. When I went to school, and many of us out here, we dealt with so many things, but we never dealt with this type of social media. When we saw things on TV at home, our parents turned the TV off or sent us out of the room. It's not like that anymore. And schools are the epicenter. And I want you to think of this as preying on children just the way someone doing something wrong in a park or any of that. It's the same mentality. It's sick, it's evil, and we have to protect our children. So there are so many complexities that go into this. And as a school, we know our primary job is to educate, but there's more to it, and we want to be prepared to make sure they're ready to be educated and not worrying about something that may happen to them. So at this time, questions for sure. There are some cases that we're dealing with right now, and I think the sheriff can jump on it. It doesn't happen at school as much as we think, but it could. But it happens at home, and then it ends up us making sure that we are educating at the school level. But I'll let Sheriff Tony answer that, because he's actually the department that would handle it.
No, it's most certainly a continuing problem. It's not a matter of is it seasonal or anything like that. Is it just on the school timeline? Our members in ICAC, or the Internet Crimes Against Children, are constantly dealing with different investigations related to sextortion or any type of use of technology to try to bring in these kids, because look, it's a predatory behavior. The suspects out there have identified their own go-by in terms of how to solicit and get photos and get these kids locked into this blackmail, and then automatically we get involved from a law enforcement perspective. So it's not one singular isolated moment, it's a continuation, and this is why we have one of the largest collective groups of investigators in ICAC in the entire state. It's because it's a prevailing issue. It's going to continue to happen every single year. And before we have victims, we'd rather have suspects in custody. There's numerous cases that we're investigating right now, and we've had cases over the last year or so where we've arrested people for those type of incidents. I also have a member here with me today, one of our sergeants, Tom McInerney, who leads up ICAC. Is there any particular specific stuff you want to share today, Sarge, while you're here?
So sextortion we've been dealing with sextortion for decades with the traditional sextortion. What we've seen recently, starting in early 2022, is a new trend we call financial sextortion. Traditional sextortion is an individual gets a picture of a compromising photo and wants more photos of that person. Usually our young females were victims of this traditional sextortion. In February of last year, early 2022, we had financial sextortion. We have organized groups who are now targeting our youth and want money in exchange for not releasing these photos. And that's come on quite a bit. We've seen over, I believe nationwide, over a 600% increase in cases of sextortion coming. Here in Broward County, we probably average about 5 cases a week. We've had success, especially in the traditional sextortion. The financial sextortion is more tricky. A lot of them are international. We work with our federal partners to try and bring justice to as much as possible. But now nationwide, we're trying to leaning towards prevention as much as possible. So getting the message out to everybody, make them aware, so our kids, when they're online, they think before they send. They think twice. Am I talking to another girl, or am I talking to somebody overseas who's going to try and extort me? And then when they do get themselves in a trick bag, they have some tools or some ideas of where to turn to try and get help, some ideas on how to mitigate it, and realize that it's not the end of the world. You can get through it and work through it.
Solid. Oh, that's excellent. And there was one here.
Yeah, two-ish questions, I guess.
Sure.
You said there's been a shift to it being male victims rather than female. Is that a recent phenomenon? Do you have any specific examples of
Sarge, you can answer that one as well. Yeah.
So with traditional sextortion, where individuals were trying to get more content, more for their own personal gratification, we found victims were mainly female, and the perpetrators were local, domestic, in the country, and things like that. Starting last year with these organized groups overseas targeting, they were targeting the males mainly because I think males are more apt to send a photo sometimes when they find a pretty girl flirting with them online. It's strictly for financial gain. And there are organized groups targeting our youth here in this country and nationwide. So it's a very organized effort against our youth today. And a lot of them are falling victims. And unfortunately, with males, we have the numbers are there. They're staggering over the last 2 years, but a lot of males don't report. The shame, the fear, the embarrassment, they just don't report to us. So the numbers, I'm sure, are grossly underestimated at this point, which is why we're trying to get the poster and the campaign out there so people can, be aware of it.
And you can expand beyond these borders of the United States. We're not unique in that we're the only nation that's using these social media platforms. So in terms of victimology, I'm sure the expansion is international.
None reported in South Florida or Florida in general. The last number I heard was 18 nationwide. You can see there's numerous that got media attention directly related to sextortion, where a young male was being extorted and decided to take his own life because he felt trapped. And sadly enough, it's some of the cases, you can read them. The person started getting extorted at 6 p.m. and by the next morning, he took his own life. It moves that fast, which is why we're trying to get parents aware of it, to be that person that the kids can come talk to, be open, have the conversation with them. If you get yourself in trouble, please come talk to me and be that open line of communication. They feel comfortable coming to their parents when they get themselves in trouble online.
The other side for consideration, just to that point, is you also have dark figures that you don't know about. Those individuals who may have not reported but had some level of embarrassment because of an incident, and then they take their life. So there's always that segment of a population that's being a victim, that may have committed suicide, may have had some psychological issues that we just won't be able to account for. I think part of what we're doing here today, the first side is try to educate the targeted population to reduce the level of victims that may occur. And then the second part of it is what we've been doing for quite some time, as the sergeant talked about, with ICAC. Although it's new and arising that there's a new terminology with sextortion, these type of practices have been occurring for quite some time since social media started. I think so between educating the community, maintaining good investigative practices and investing within ICAC and making sure we're following national protocols, the combination of that, we should have a reduction in some of these incidents.
So that's one of the pieces that the school district, we are going to look at training. Obviously, there's an awareness with the posters, but also where to turn. Obviously, your resource officer, your guidance counselor, teachers, anyone. We want to equip our staff not to have the answers, but just know where to turn and help guide these children. I want to mention that, Dr. Holness, not only being a great school board member, but this is close to his heart because he has 2 young men as sons that are this age. So, he's obviously going to push us as hard as we can to do everything we can from that perspective because he's also a parent. This is just one of those things that we have to deal with. And one of the things we will deal with, and as the sheriff said, proactivity is the best answer to this because of the scams. It's something that we didn't deal with 20 years ago, but it's something we have now, and it's reality, and let's stay out in front of it because our kids' lives are too valuable for this.